What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is June 14th of 2021. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a massive macro video on the state of the cryptocurrency market. This is probably the biggest question I've gotten asked from a lot of people, and I feel it's quite fitting as we have a little bit of catching up to do, as I was out sick for the past week. So I appreciate the patience on your guys' end. I know everyone's on edge because the market has been relatively quiet for the past few weeks since the sell-off, except for just over the last 24 hours. There's been a very clear dichotomy that's starting to build here in the market, and I want to dive into it today. So let's go ahead and we'll dive straight into it right after our quick sponsor. And our sponsor for today's episode is Balanced. Balanced is a new DeFi product on the Icon network, positioned as the decentralized bank of Icon. It's been going from strength to strength since its launch in late April and managed to lock up over 10% of the entire ICX circulating supply in its first 2 weeks. Balance's main purpose is to create synthetic assets using ICX as collateral. The first asset they've created is a stable currency, Balanced Dollars, which is tied to the value of $1. Balanced allows investors to do more with their ICX than ever before. It includes the ability to earn Icon staking rewards, to take out interest-free loans on your ICX, swap Icon-based assets, and supply liquidity. If you've used Balance, you can own a piece of it with Balance tokens. They give you voting rights and share of the network fees, and you can earn them daily by borrowing Balance dollars or providing liquidity. You can also earn BALN just by staking your ICX in your Icon wallet through a weekly airdrip program. You can sign up at app.balance.network/airdrip every week to claim your tokens. Head on over to their Twitter page down below in the description, otherwise known as Balance DAO, and you can learn more about upcoming updates, as well as checking out balance.network to learn more about what's going on with this exciting new DeFi project. Alrighty, everyone, so let's go ahead and dive straight into the market here, taking a quick look over the last 24 hours. As I mentioned, outside of some weird exclusions or bugs, I can't believe CoinMarketCap still has this, you can see here that there's a variety of cryptocurrencies here over the last 24 hours that are up in green territory. Nothing crazy significant, not bull market activity just yet. However, we are seeing that some cryptocurrencies are actually making their first significant green move here and over around a week and a half, 2 weeks. So this is really nice to see here. But the major thing I want to focus on here, and you're going to see it emphasized throughout this video, guys, is really, generally speaking, who's leading in this market. And I gotta be honest with you all, someone who has been riding and calling that altcoin wave since back in January and late December, when we were building our positions in key DeFi plays like Uni. We were finding a variety of different small cap and mid cap plays that could come up and coming in the cycle. Bitcoin right now is really, outside of a few exceptions, really the only crypto that's leading in this market in the top 100. And this is something that I want to emphasize on because, we've been big on Ethereum, we've been big on the altcoin space, and we did phenomenally well making these bets. Our portfolio has increased quite high against Bitcoin. But the question remains, can that momentum keep up? Well, if we take a look here at Ethereum's chart here, even though it is still right where it was back in April, the late part of April of 2021, it's actually quite great if you look at it. At the same time, when we take a look at the actual change or ratio in this case between Ethereum and Bitcoin, the picture pans out a little bit different. This is your chart here, right? In fact, since the start of the month here, since June 1st, Ethereum is down around 13% from where it closed at the end of May. And that's not even including peak valuation here at around 0.08. This was that general resistance range that we talked about potentially watching for, right? We had this midpoint here that's acted as resistance and support, and then again support again, breaking through, acting as resistance, acting as support, broke through again. You can see this general uptrend midline, whether you're looking at the auto chart, looking at the logarithmic chart, doesn't really matter. This point of contingency between being support and resistance has played a very big role. And it was pretty expected that it was going to play some form of resistance, right? Now, you might be wondering, why am I not panic selling my ETH for BTC? That's a great question. And that's a thing that you need to consider depending on your jurisdiction, right? So the first thing I'm starting to think about here is, okay, there's a potential reversal in altcoin dominance here that might be going into Bitcoin, right? So we're starting to see that liquidity that flew out of Bitcoin as Bitcoin became an appreciating asset, some of that new valuation going into speculating on altcoins as retail volume picked up. And now we're starting to see it outflow. The question we have to ask ourselves here is, how significant is this going to be? Because if you're like myself and you're in the United States or other various jurisdictions, you have to think about the tax implications of taking profits on a lot of these winners. I don't know about you guys, but I think we did pretty dang good on the upswing here, riding some of the altcoins that we did. Sure, we weren't in Dogecoin, right? Yeah, sure, you don't win every single one of them, but at the same time, we have to think here about, okay, do we really feel in this case that the losses we're going to incur from altcoins maybe losing dominance or losing in their ratios against Bitcoin are favorable for us to make that shift, right? If you're actually trading and investing within the US, right? We really have to think about that. Is this trend shift really going to materialize? It certainly looks like, if I were to look at any chart in the market, Bitcoin is actually showing some good signs here. Generally consistent lows at the support range here. Potentially, if we got back up above this range at 42,000, that would maybe be a really good kickoff point for things to start moving higher. And you got to see how price reacts in some of these ranges. But broadly speaking, you can look at the ETH chart, just still kind of rolling over here, Bitcoin, or you can look at the actual ratio itself, right? It's clearly looking like Bitcoin's the winner here. And it's not just Bitcoin against Ethereum, it's Bitcoin against the broader market, right? If we take a look at altcoin dominance here, we're generally seeing for the first time since all the way back here in January, since we kicked off the cycle, the first set of events of lower significant highs, the first sign of a clear trend reversal. Now, at the end of it all, guys, everyone's going to have different positions in this case. You might have a play that you've made a mere kind of 2 to 3x against Bitcoin, which is not something to scoff at. That's awesome, right? We're not going to make the same kind of multiples we made in the last cycle back in 2017. But also some of you as well have been holding positions that have done 10x, 20x, 30x, 50x, right? And I have to tell you all, I don't know what positions you own. I don't know how fundamentally big you are on those positions. But I got to be completely blunt. If I had some of those crazy multiplied positions, right, and they're probably starting to fade a little bit, anytime I would get an opportunity where there's a bit of significant rebound in price, or if it was still holding up relatively well, similar to the range of where this altcoin dominance chart is, I'd be taking profits on some of those. And the reason I say that is because when you get those kind of multiples against Bitcoin, sometimes you got to consider locking it in, right? I'm not telling you to do anything, guys. You're going to have to make that decision for yourself. But if you've only made like a 1 or 2x multiple against Bitcoin, it might not be that great of an idea to just go ahead and lock in all your profits in this case and switch over to Bitcoin, because that will probably incur some kind of tax obligation. Now, if you're in some other countries, if you've held for over a year, you might not owe any tax. I think like in Germany, there's all types of different rules you have to consider. But I would recommend learning about that. It's very important for those of you who have built sizable portfolios, because it's a reality of the situation. It does play a lot. Short-term, long-term capital gains in the U.S. plays a big role. I know it's boring, but the reason I say that is that that's the kind of stuff you have to think about. And I wouldn't be fretting about, wait a day, wait 2 days or so, and make sure you make the proper decision. It doesn't matter if dominance drops a little bit more and you take a little less profit, or who knows, you might get lucky and altcoin dominance bounces back up, some of your cryptos outperform Bitcoin over the next day or so. Just treat it with a grain of salt, guys. Take it slow. Now, why is it that altcoins are now starting to set in lower highs and potentially break down and set in lower lows? Well, first off, generally speaking, Bitcoin has seen a massive 50% plus correction. And that's obviously going to stunt altcoin markets, right? I got to be honest with you guys. I definitely bought the dip for sure on a lot of plays. But that's a loan. The loans that I took out to buy that dip were mainly done in order to take the US dollar discount. You can think altcoins are going to go up in this case. You can think Bitcoin is going to go up in dollar terms. It doesn't mean that dominance can't go down, where Bitcoin can start to outpace altcoins. So that's something critical and important to keep in mind here in this case. As much as I do believe that the market could still move higher, I'm not being bearish here. What I am saying is that Bitcoin is going to start to probably garner some of that market share. Now, what's the real macro reason why this is happening? Well, you don't always really need one. And I'll talk about the obvious story here in a little bit with El Salvador. But just to be honest with you guys, I mean, this has gone from around, 27% here in early January to 60% in a matter of less than 5 months. And this was like far beyond what we expected, guys. And we had optimistic expectations for this to come up to 47, 48 with a potential chance of breaking out, but taking a much longer period of time. It blew away everyone's expectations. And we're right back to the general resistance range where we topped out back in the last cycle. I gotta be honest with you guys. I definitely feel like switching some of my allocation over to Bitcoin. Haven't done much yet in this case. Again, like I'm still heavily exposed to altcoins, but it's gonna take some time to take those rotations and think about it. I'm not so much worried about for example, like the here today when I tell you guys that I'm doing this, that the market's just gonna sell off, right? It doesn't work like that. This is a slow but steady process in this case, so I want to make sure I do things right so I don't incur some massive tax loss where I'd have to go out and have to make any major payouts and stuff that I can just better avoid in this case by simply holding assets long term. It might be beneficial. Maybe I have assets that when I look at their chart, I'm thinking, oh wow, this one is actually still holding up quite nicely against Bitcoin. And I don't see it rolling over anytime soon. It might be something that's got some great fundamental developments, right? But I have to say that I think the hype around DeFi summer in this case, as much as I'm a big DeFi head, I've invested in the space like hell. I love DeFi. I got to be honest with you guys. I don't know if we're going to get the crazy DeFi summer. Because as much as there's layer 2s out there, there's some great tools being built. This seems like we're in one of those 3 to 6 month in the shadow scenes when no one's paying attention and all the fundamental development gets built. And then voila, one of those use cases that was being built in the bear market comes to the fray and gets everyone very excited as Bitcoin has been generally increasing in price. People get interested in crypto again. It's typical market cycle activity, right? So again, I gotta say that the dominance chart isn't looking too hot. I'm not gonna treat altcoin dominance any different than I did Bitcoin, calling out those lower highs and lower lows, and that's what eventually led to the 50% pullback in Bitcoin. But I have to say, even though it's not brand new spanking news as I was sick over the past week, I do want to say that this news with El Salvador, overall, though I think there are some people who are overhyping some elements of it, I do think it's phenomenal news to have more countries in the world recognizing Bitcoin as legal tender. I think that that's very interesting. But outside of this as well, what this tells us here is that you are going to start to see a potential, not a guarantee, but a potential domino effect in this case. If El Salvador and some of the other countries, as you guys might have seen, everyone's got the the laser eyes. There's a variety of other people in Latin American countries. One of the countries I visited, Paraguay, a variety of countries that are going to start to possibly explore this use case of Bitcoin for remittances or legal tender. Might be looking into Bitcoin mining. And this does actually fix a lot of the concerns temporarily that Bitcoin had around the Chinese mining news that was the key domino in knocking this thing down, right? whether it's FUD, etc. It was the key domino that had played a role in knocking down the markets, and the leverage traders liquidations followed, right? But this might be a turning point for Bitcoin where we finally are going to start seeing it used on central bank balance sheets. We are going to start seeing it recognized as legal tender in a variety of economies, especially in regions in the world where it's necessary, where central banks of these local governments haven't been trusted for decades to do their job. And we might return back to a much more kind of simple but also exciting narrative of Bitcoin, the golden standard of crypto, coming back into the fray, and people looking at it as this new emerging store of value, right? So that's what I think is possibly upon us here. And I gotta be honest here in this case, that's probably gonna mean that I'm doing some capital rotations, right? I've thought about this a good amount here over the last week as I've been sick. In this case, I just kind of sat back and thought a little bit about the changing narrative here, because narratives do drive markets, guys. They do at the end of the day, right? So, anyways, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. I rambled on a bit. If you guys tolerated me, I really appreciate it. If you guys can, drop a like as always. And if you're kind of interested in this macro analysis, we've got the Dash report down in the description. We'll have a new report coming out later in the month, but you can get this month's edition. But I'm really, really keen to see what happens here over the next couple days, because I think we're going to get a defining price move in either Bitcoin or altcoins that's going to really signify if my theory is wrong, or that if I'm right in this case, that the trend is about to shift big time. And I think that begins somewhere between 40K to 42K. That's the contestment range here of price. If you can break beyond that range, and altcoins don't start outpacing Bitcoin, I would say that it's probably time to run for the hills on those very exponential returns you made on Shiba Inu token, if you were lucky enough to get it. All right. So thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate it as always. I'm getting back and better than ever into the swing of things. So I appreciate you guys' patience as always. And until the next video, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.